Welcome to For Our Success. How are you today? I am Coach Mary Ann, and I'm just trying to get my camera straight here. We are so excited. I'm here with Dr. Linda Dougan,
Hey,
and we are
everybody.
here.
Oh,
We are here just to enjoy the time with you today and talk about relationships. We're going to talk about various types of relationships. We're going to talk about the do's and the don't elements of a good relationship. And so hopefully today you can get some information that's going to help you in your relationship, whether it's be with your family, your spouse, your boo, your employer, whatever. There's a lot of elements that really help us function well in our relationships. So we're excited. So Linda, take it away.
well, the first thing I think that we need to talk about is relationship. Well, we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about all of those. We're going to tap into them, but we want to get to the essential things of relationships. And the first thing that we need to look at is our relationship with ourselves, because we know, Mary and I know from working with people, that you've got to have that relationship with yourself in order before anything else, any other kind of relationship is going to work well. So we want to talk about that a little bit as to, what we need to do in order to have better relationship with ourselves.
Absolutely.
So I came up with this, Mary, the 3 C's to kind of help us to remember these things that we need to do in order to love ourselves more. And the first one is to connect with God, the universe, the higher power, whatever you call it. I don't care what you call it. That thing, that entity that you go to that is beyond yourself. You've got to connect with that first. And
Absolutely.
that's just fundamental for anything. And then the second one is cultivating healthy relationships with other people and learning how to do that. Because, sometimes, in the development of relationships and in growing ourselves, we find out there are things that we could kind of sharpen in order.
Sorry about that. There we go. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That we can sharpen within ourselves to help our relationships. So cultivating those good relationships with others. And then the last one is commitment to being responsible for improving the relationship, taking on your part of being making that relationship better, being responsible for that, and even with yourself, being responsible for that. It's not someone else's fault that you do this or you do that. You take your responsibility, and you'll be just overwhelmed with how well the relationship will improve. And that's all we can ask you to do anyway. So just taking responsibility for your part in the relationship. Those three C's are essential for developing a relationship with yourself as well as with others. So, okay. So let's talk about what relationship we want to talk about next, Mary.
Well, the first thing I want to talk about some of those do's of a good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
On top of what you just shared, and we're going to see how what you just shared really comes into play. And
Mm-hmm.
when we're talking about relationship, one of the biggest challenges I see with individuals that I'm coaching, or just individuals I have done some spiritual development with as well, and whether it's biblical development, with families, with friendships, communication just seems to just be one of the biggest challenges people have.
Yes. Yeah.
Communication, and that communication has so many do elements to it and don't elements, that's the main one, the communication. Being a Christian, according to our system of belief, you know the Bible tells us that our communication should be wholesome. It should be yay, yay, and nay, nay. It should be, clear. We should be empathetic and sympathetic. But we find that a lot of people, the reason why they have the biggest challenges is they don't know how to communicate to each other.
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
And what are some of those do elements? The first one is listening.
Mm-hmm.
In coaching, we learn
Yep.
3 types of listening. They're called level listening. There's that level 1 listening, in one ear, out the other.
Out the other. Mm-hmm.
I heard you. No, you really didn't hear me. You may
Right.
have heard a sound. You may have heard the sounds that I was making. You may have heard the words I was saying, but you didn't hear.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's level 2, where now I'm hearing you. I hear your words. I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I'm even seeing how you apply what you're saying or how you relate what you're saying to the situation. Level 3,
And what?
not only do I
Mm-hmm.
hear what you're saying, I hear what you're not saying. I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at you. I see your face. I see your demeanor. I
Body
see your
language.
shoulders. I see your body language. I'm here with you. And it's called being present.
Yes,
When
yes.
you are truly listening, you are being present
And
with
one of the
the
things, one
person.
of the skills that we use in counseling too is to help people to check in with your partner and repeat what you think they have said. Because what you think they have said and what they mean is not what they necessarily have said or mean. So that repetition as to how you're interpreting their words is really important in order to really verify that you are understanding. And so, for example, if someone communicates with you about something, um, uh, just play it back to them like they have told you to see what their reaction is to it, if that is essentially what they have said. That's a really important little exercise that we do, to
But,
help people clarify that, to make sure they're understanding.
so let me
That's
give them a demonstration of that right now. So, Linda, so what I heard you say, and see if I understand you correctly, is
mm-hmm.
that when we're communicating with our person, the person who's on the other end, whether it's our spouse or whoever we're trying to
Kids or
communicate with,
whatever.
we
Mm-hmm.
should replay back what they said so they
Yeah,
can know that we heard them.
that's right.
And that's
That's
a really great tool in communication, is that you can even reframe it, say it in your own words so that they know that you are there, that you are present, you're with them. So
mm-hmm.
is that an example of what you
Yeah,
just said? I just
yes,
played back to
exactly.
you what I heard you say.
Right, right. But sometimes, we don't get it right. So we've got to, that is one tool that will help you to ascertain whether you really have the information, because we're putting in, our feelings and what we think they are doing and all this other garbage instead of really, working from base level, as to what they are really communicating to you.
Yeah, because some people actually hear what they want to hear and not what you're actually saying.
Saying, mm-hmm,
Because some people don't want to hear what you have to say, which
mm-hmm.
means they just don't want to receive
Nope,
what you have to say, because
not.
maybe they agree with what you have to say. So let me give you a
Or
tool
maybe
on
they're
great
not.
listening.
They may
Huh?
not they may not be ready to receive it,
Right.
and especially if it's something that makes them look bad or bruises their ego, or, a little or a lot or whatever, they're not ready to receive it. And so, they'll tune it out or make it look like it's your fault or whatever, they're not ready to receive it yet. But at least you have clarity on that.
Right, exactly.
you know,
Exactly. You know
so
what? Before we move any further, I forgot to tell people. I know some people are probably wondering, where is Lucinda? Where is
that's right.
attorney? Yeah, Jones, Lucinda Jones. Hey, Lucinda is working on a case. And so so this week she won't be with us, but she should be with us on our next show. Hopefully she will be. She's really engrossed in that case, and we definitely miss her.
Yeah.
So no, she hasn't left us. She's still a part of For Our Success. And Lucinda, mwah, we love you when you're able to view this, and we miss you. We can't wait for you to come back. Yeah. So
And
I
best
almost
wishes
forgot
on
that.
that case, girl.
Wait a minute,
Best wishes on that
you
case.
know. Um, So like you're saying, is that when people communicate and they listen, I want to add to what we've been saying. It's a tool that you can take with you. This is something you could practice over the next week, over the next 2 weeks. You can practice this. And it's listening without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's hard for some of you.
Mm-hmm.
Listening without judgment. You, that might mean you need to take a deep breath and move you out the way. Just move you to the back burner for a minute and listen. Don't judge them. Don't condemn them.
Mm-hmm.
Listen. And that's kind of hard when you're emotionally aroused, isn't it, Linda?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But we got to do it. That's the work. That's the work in order to make the relationships work. Is sometimes we have to put our own feelings on the back burner in order to understand where people are coming from. Um, so and also I have a little formula for conflict resolution, because there are going to be conflicts in your relationships. I was married 43 years and I loved him to death and he loved me, I'm sure. But there were some days I was ready to throw him out the window. You know what I'm saying? And so there are going to be those conflicts, and knowing how to manage those is very, very important. Um, and I've got 4 steps that I use with clients in helping them to resolve those conflicts. One of them, the first step, is to show mutual respect for each other. So no matter what we're communicating, we always show respect for each other. You may be hard to hear, but I still respect you, and I'm not going to call you out your name or do all these other things, because that just breaks down communication. It doesn't help at all. Um, pinpoint. Number 2 is pinpoint what the real issue is, and that means sometimes we get in arguments about something that is not really the real issue. For example, the real issue might be finding a better way of making a decision, about something like where you're going to take a vacation, instead of, I had one couple and he would always make the plans to do whatever, and she was supposed to go along with it. And so he thought that the issue was that she didn't like his plans and all of this, but her issue was that she wanted some input into it, as well as the kids, as to where they would go and what they would do. But he was, uh, not understanding what the real issue was. And the third step is seeking areas of agreement, and also determining what you can do to change to make things better. But so it's seeking some areas that you can agree upon. And sometimes, that's where counselors may be able to come in to help you or whatever, if you have problems with that. But most people can do it on their own after they understand the process. But seeking those areas of agreement, like that couple finally decided that, yeah, after they understood what was really the issue, that they could, have a family meeting and determine, ahead of time what was going to be the plan for vacations for that year or whatever. So that's really important, third step. And then the fourth step is mutually participating in the decision making. That everyone that's involved in that conflict should participate in the decision making as to how we're going to resolve this, instead of just one person. Sometimes we have very dominant people in a relationship and they want to determine, they're very comfortable determining, well, this is what we're going to do. Whereas the other person may not be quite on board with that. So mutually deciding, and that means making a deliberate effort to get the consent of each other, of everyone that's involved, before making that decision. So those are the 4 points that need to be considered in when you do have those conflicts. Um, but a lot of times, especially in this day and age, Miriam, there's just so much stuff going on. I mean, couples and families and kids, everybody's stressed out, and relationships are often strained. We're living, with each other 24/7 now, a lot of times, and all of that. And so there's a lot of stress to the
Yeah,
relationship. So
definitely.
how do we relieve that stress? How have you been able to relieve it?
Well, when you have stress in relationships, stress, remember this, stress is a communication that something is going on. So it's your body communicating that something's not right.
Hmm.
Okay. Or that something is different, because you can have you
Yeah.
stress is that stress that makes you do better. It's like, oh man, I'm getting ready to make this basket, or I'm getting ready to run
Yeah.
this, touchdown. You got that energy kind of stress.
Yeah.
But then you have that other stress that's not as good. That's the basic stress that you were, you get all these cortisones and all kinds of things in your body just starts to flare up. Well, is your body telling you something's not right here?
Hmm.
And when
Yeah.
you experience that stress in your relationship, you experience that stress in your communications, then you know that, uh-oh, you know what, something's not right. So what's
Mm-hmm.
the first thing you should do?
Mm-hmm.
You might first check with yourself.
Hmm. There you go.
Check with you. So
Hmm.
if the stress is uh if you're feeling stress, you're feeling anxiety, check with you.
Hmm.
What?
And that's where that prayer and meditation and all of that comes in too. That's the first thing I do when I'm stressed. I got to check it out. I got to
Yeah,
talk to the Lord about it, and see where it's coming from, what it is, and what I can do to relieve it, and how much of it is, you know, what I need to do in order to relieve that thing. How much of it
right.
is because of something I'm looking at, my perspective on the situation. Try to get a focus on that. Um,
And let me add this, with when you're noticing first you, then you might ask yourself, okay, what do I need to address right here? What seems to be, is this me? Is this them? So if you say, well, it's them, if you conclude that, okay, I'm doing what I know to do,
mhm.
then you can now address it with that person. But this is where the mistake comes in. A lot of times when we are so full of stress, because many times we let stuff build up and we don't
Mm.
address it as soon as we need to address it. We let
Yep.
it all build up, and now the person is not getting ready to hear what the problem is, what that's
Right.
before you. They're getting ready to hear what the problems that led up to now, whether it was the
Uh-huh.
problem they didn't address 5 times before, and then they want to compile all that on you, and then and now
Like,
they want to just let you have it, and rather than communicate, it's accusations, it's battling, it's tongue lashing, it's calling names, it's doing all kinds of things rather than having a conversation.
mhm, mhm,
And so the first thing people should be mindful of is, how are you coming across when you're trying to address this with that person?
mhm,
Is
mm,
it, are you accusing them? Are you fussing them out? Are you communicating in a way where they will really hear you? Now, some people don't want to hear it. I don't, you're wrong time. That's another thing we need to talk about, Linda. Remind me, timing. Because there's a
uh-huh.
time when you want to do this communication.
Right.
Sometimes people are not ready for it at that time. And you
Mm.
got to recognize that. So
Well,
it's like,
and then, go ahead.
well, I was just saying, it's first noticing you, because it may not be the time for you to say nothing, because
Mm,
you may have all that stress on you, and you know that if you say one word to them, it's just going to come out like a river. So check yourself, like Linda said, breathe. Hey, if you have a meditation practice, meditate. If you have a prayer practice, pray. Do
yep.
what it takes for you to sit and get and put yourself in check. Sometimes people just don't want to check themselves. They will always want to check somebody else. Check
Right.
you. And
Uh-huh.
when you check you, now you can see if it's time, the right timing for you to check or not check, but for you to address
Mm-hmm.
the issue with the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And you always want to have a conversation, because when you are emotional, and here comes the neuroscience. I love it, I love it, I love it. But you got that emotional centers, that amygdala in there that's firing off. And it's saying either fight, flight, which run from it, or
Mm-hmm.
freeze, don't know what to say or what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But whenever you do that, you're thinking, your executive functioning, your thinking is diminished. So you can't really think. Have you ever been so upset that you can't think? You ever been
Mm-hmm.
so frightened you can't think? You ever been so mad or sad or that you can't think? It's because your amygdala is fired. It's firing and it's active, and your thinking is low.
Sometimes you do need to escape and just, put your mind on something else for a while.
True.
Because and focusing on what you can do and what you can have instead of focusing on the problem all the time. Like let sometimes you tell your kids time out, you know, and just redirect that energy or that sadness or whatever it is to something else. We have to do that in our relationships all the time and with ourselves even, sometimes. But focusing on those positive things that are working in your life, focusing on what you can do to make a difference, focusing on what you have or what you can have instead of what you don't have. Those are things that will relieve that stress and
Yes.
take you to another part of yourself that is more positive in moving you out of those those situations where you have no control or you think you have no control. Temporary escapes are good, as long as they're temporary, get back.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sometimes, Linda, people don't see the value of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's an enormous value
Yes.
to walk away from the situation so that you can have a fresh approach to it.
Right.
Sometimes people, a person will say right now is not the best time, and the other person just wants to keep going at them, going blah blah blah. They insist, forcing a conversation on you. If you That's a don't element.
Mm-hmm.
Stop forcing conversations on the person you're trying to communicate with when it is the wrong time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let
And
them have their quiet time so they can think. Because remember, you're forcing a conversation. You're keeping them in the emotional centers
right.
so they can't think. But you want them to think. How can they think? You won't shut up long enough to let them think. So I mean, it's the truth. It's like,
It,
be quiet already. Let them go away and think, or you go away. Matter of fact, if you go away, you might be able to breathe. You might be able to think, because you can't think with all of those emotions.
mm-hmm.
So that's why you must, if you see these stressful moments, check
Sometimes
yourself,
humor will
check your
help.
man. Hmm?
Sometimes, sometimes humor will help.
Humor.
Appropriate, at that point in time. Like somebody's hot mad, that may not be the right time to crack a joke. It depends on the joke. So you have to be very calculating about that.
Oh
And
yeah.
sexuality also is a reliever, is a stress reliever. But you got to be together on that too,
Wait a
because
minute, you said something else is on
sexuality,
sex. Oh yes, sexual. Yes, sex.
that relieves stress.
Have some good sex. Make love.
That's right. That's right. But
Honey,
it's
that's
got
a
to be,
great stress reliever.
but not forcing each other,
Right. Oh, of course.
that's not going to work. But if there's some agreement that that'll help to relieve stress, or there's cooperation, yeah, by all means. That's
Yeah.
what it's for. That's one of the reasons anyway.
God gave it as a remedy to a lot of things when it's done
Oh,
right. When it's done right. Okay, so one from Lucinda, that she's like, make sure we talk about this, and that's we're looking at the do's and the don'ts elements of a relationship, of a good relationship. One is the blame game.
oh Lord, yes.
The blame game.
Mhm.
We so used to blaming others. sometimes we blame ourselves and we get so depressed, and then the person can't communicate with us either. But the
Mm,
blame game, some people don't like to share the blame or
mm,
share the responsibility. So if your relationship didn't work, who's the fault? Oh, he's the fault. Oh, and you're not taking your responsibility. I talked to a young man I was coaching yesterday, and I asked him, I said, so what was the demise? What led to the demise of your marriage? And he said, you know what? I would say it was 50-50.
mhm.
I said, really?
That's
That's not
unusual.
a common answer, huh?
That's unusual because you
That's
had
what I'm saying.
one
That's not a
common
common answer. Yeah. He's like 50-50. He said, we'll talk about it sometime. He said, but I believe I was just as responsible for it. And I said, oh man, I got to use that on the show tomorrow. But just as responsible for it as she was.
Mhm,
If you look, I mean, even if the person was 100% responsible, you were faithful, you were committed, you never thought about going out or disrespecting them, and they went out and they did something that was very betrayal to your relationship, or even your friendship, best friends, have broken, have fallen apart, or business relationships have been destroyed, you know, for betrayal or disrespect or a lot of reasons. Even if that person is 100% responsible, they're
mm,
really not 100% responsible.
right. Mhm,
Because often I find when I we dig down into it, is that there were signs you
mhm,
refused to notice.
mhm, mhm. Or
You
there may
know,
have been something that you thought was okay to say
right?
or do, and their response was that they were hurt or angry or whatever to that, because it was disrespectful or whatever, or that's the way they interpret it. So that's why the communication is very, very important in,
Yeah,
in relieving, and helping to alleviate problems that we have in relationship. That communication is a big deal. Mhm.
absolutely. And you know
Like
what? On
Michelle
the
Obama said,
blame,
they went to the marriage counselor and she was saying, "Fix him," you know.
fix him, fix
Yeah,
him.
fix
So,
him.
like,
And most people do come into counseling thinking that, fix him or fix her. She's
right,
the one that's making this relationship not work.
exactly. That's the one I'm already, my antennas are up already thinking, okay, we need a coach.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but when you're talking about blame, why 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 does blame and shame have to show up? Why really do does blame have to come into the relationship?
Well, I think
So
it's an ego thing because I've had couples. I remember one especially, and both of them came to counseling. They agreed to counseling. Both of them wanted counseling, but when we got there, I had to do some intervention because she just went on and on and on about all the stuff he had done in the past. He was the one that wanted to come to counseling, really. He was the one that set up the appointment and everything, and she agreed as well. And so I couldn't get her off that page. I mean, it was very difficult. I did eventually, but I couldn't get her off that page of beating up on him. You did this and you did that, and not taking responsibility for her part of the relationship failure. You know,
that,
um, so
that
that's really a big part of it. Is that blame game that you were talking about.
yeah. So that kind of leads us into the next point, that Lucinda was saying about taking that responsibility. Your responsibility, does it really have to be a blame
Mm-hmm.
situation and a shame situation, you know or can it just be there's a responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
even if you did nothing wrong,
Mm-hmm.
your responsibility could be, you know hey, apparently I didn't see what I didn't see that you were unhappy, or I didn't see that this might be a flaw or whatever. I'm not really sure what has caused this,
Mm-hmm.
but I like to address it if it's something we can address. But if it's not, hey,
Mm,
perhaps, I should have been more aware.
uh-huh.
And if even if you wasn't, because if you just take it as responsibility opposed to shame or blame, then you're not going to say, well, you know what, I guess I was to blame for that too.
Right, right, right.
I guess, because that's the flip side of it. People blame themselves. It's like it was all me. It was all me.
Mm,
And then if it's not doing you any good, if it's not going to fix the situation, why do you need to wallow in blame and
mm,
shame?
mhm,
So if you just take responsibility, it's like, okay, I'm taking the lessons from this and I can do
mm,
that differently the next time.
mhm,
Next relationship, I'll do that differently. Next friendship, I'll do that differently. Or the next time with you, I'll do it differently.
mhm. If you
Because
get to,
people, if you get in blame and shame, it kind of blinds you to getting the lessons
that's
from
right.
it.
And to making any changes.
Exactly. Exactly. What
So,
about that quid pro quo? I did this for you. Now you got to do this for me in relationships. How does that show up, Linda?
oh, oh, girl, I tell you, it's not always 50-50. That's the bottom line for a real relationship. It's not always 50-50. So, you have to understand that. And part of the relationship, for long-term relationships is that you have to give sometimes, and sometimes more than you think that you should. But are you willing to do that? You know, um, for me, it was calculated. It was always calculated. But there comes a point where there is a trust in the relationship, so that some things aren't even important anymore. I mean, it's not like you did this for me and I did, I got to do this for you. It's like, okay, so you do this and I'm not real happy with it, but I found a way to be okay with it, you know? And it makes our relationship okay also. It keeps us from 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 destroying the relationship. The relationship is kind of like the baby. And do you want to save the baby or not? Sometimes you don't. That's okay too. But you got to decide, what to do. But understand that it's not going to always be 50-50. And just because you're giving doesn't mean that they're going to give the same exact amount. And there may be times in the marriage where they will give more, one will give more than the other, you know? So you have to understand that too. Because, for example, sometimes like husbands and wives, they have a lot of fun and they're doing things together. And then all of a sudden children come. Okay, so children are taking mom's attention and time and energy away from that,
Or
con-
dads?
yeah, conjugal relationship with husband. And it doesn't mean she doesn't love him, but she's tired, and I know because I was one of those. And so it wasn't exactly the same. So, but there needs to be an understanding and an adjustment in a relationship, knowing that there are various stages and certain things that come into our lives that will change the dynamics of the relationship. And just to be conscious of that, gotta we gotta be woke, as they say, in the relationship, and understanding that it's not going to always be the same. But when you know each other's intent and you recognize what is happening, then you can make those kinds of adjustments,
Yeah.
if you want to.
And which kind of brings me to a point. Um, Men and women are different. And I know women, sometimes we don't want to hear that, or we think, yeah, right, but he should know and he should be this. And women are different. They communicate differently, they have different desires. They're not all the same. I was raised around guys, and I have 4 sons and 1 daughter, grown. I can tell you that men are different.
Hmm.
And so, whereas you might be, oh, you may communicate one way, you may show your love, and this is not even just with me, just be with another person. You might show your love in one way, they might show there's another. We talk about the 5 love languages. Some people are all about, words of affirmation. That means you got to constantly, affirm them with your words. Some people are about acts of service. They, if you don't do anything for them, they don't feel loved. Some
Hmm.
people are about gifts. If you don't ever buy them any gifts or whatever, or they're always getting you gifts because this is the way they show their love,
Mm,
then we have touch. If you never touch that person might need to be touched all the time. They may
yeah,
do everything in the world for you, but they
yeah,
need to be touched. They need
right,
to be touched, so and then quality time. You may provide a man sometimes wants, I provide a roof over your head, I pay the bills, I pay this or whatever, and the woman is like, yeah, but we ain't spend no time together.
right.
It's
Mm.
quality touch.
Oh,
I mean,
Mary, let
quality
me interrupt
time.
you let me interrupt you
Yeah,
just for a minute.
go ahead.
Let's encourage those who have questions or whatever to use our chat to, send in questions or to call or whatever they can do, so that we might be able to address some questions if they have questions or things they'd like, issues they'd like to answer. So
Yeah,
is the chat open tonight?
I did look at the chat. There's no chats right now, as of right now.
I
But
don't know if people really understood that they could, write in questions.
right, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and okay, great.
But your point is really good, Mary, in that, we are different. And that's a part of a relationship, is getting to know how we're different and what is important to each other. Sometimes, that's a part of the marriage counseling, especially pre-counseling, before marriage, premarital counseling, is to get to know each other and what your needs are, and how you communicate with each other and all of that. Because it may be very different, you're right, men and women, generally speaking, um, communicate differently. And but not always, but some men may need to be touched. They may not even know they need to be touched, but
Right.
you know,
Well, that is it.
try to be
That's
tough
the
and
love
everything.
language is for everybody.
Yeah.
I know many men love to be touched. That's the
Hmm.
whole thing. Why? They had a touching mother.
Hmm.
They've always been touched. Hug they grandma, and auntie and cuz everybody hugged them and touched them and love, and that's how they show love in their family. And then here you come, you don't want nobody touching you.
Hmm.
All that, he got to be all up under me and all that. And then you want to have a good relationship.
Or he may be a person who never had too much touching and didn't even know.
Exactly. And
He,
you needing all that affection.
yeah. And he didn't even know that he's always masking it with his masculinity, or toughness. Or women are like that too sometimes.
Yeah.
Like like you said, I don't need all that touching, and but when he finds a relationship where there is touching, he just melts.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah. So anyway, all of that is really, really important that we, be aware of that. And that's the part of developing a relationship.
And so the next point I like to make, Linda, is about support. It's about support. To have a great relationship, you should have support. And I'm not
Now,
talking
when you
about
say support,
financial.
what are we talking about?
I'm not talking about financial support. I'm
Mhm.
talking about, like I share with my children, make sure you marry someone who is for you. That means they're on your team. They're
Right.
there to support you, support your dreams, support your visions, encourage you, have your back. So think about this. If you were doing there's when we sometimes in a retreat, what we do when we're trying to establish trust is we put the partner behind and behind the person, and then
Yeah.
we have the person fall back in their
Okay.
arms,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
And you find so many people that are stumbling, they don't want to fall because they have an issue, a trust issue,
Yeah.
that they don't trust that this person back here either is strong enough or quick enough or or stable enough to catch them, or they're just not used to yielding themselves like that. Well, the
Yeah.
person in the back is the one to support and say, I'm here for you. I
Hmm.
got you. No matter, you can fall back, honey, because I got you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Be that support for your partner, your child. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I
Yes.
do want to hit on parent
Absolutely
child
important.
relationship in a minute.
Yes.
For your child,
Mhm.
Be that support for them. And parents need support too, children.
Yes.
Parents need to know that you got their back as well, that
Yes.
you love them too, that you there for them too, that they can fall back in your arms too.
Mm-hmm.
So that support really helps a person to, just to grow and develop and to be stronger. It gives another person strength. And
Yeah,
it's
and
that. Go
it's
ahead.
support is another word for support to me is encouragement,
Yeah.
That's a part of support, I think. And a lot of times I found in the marriage counseling that we've done is that that's a missing element. There's no encouragement of each other, or else it's one-sided. One person is doing all the encouraging, providing everything, and the other person is just receiving, but they don't feel a need to give. So that encouragement is really important.
And
Important.
encouragement is so necessary.
And especially in parental relationships, with your children.
Yes.
You got to encourage your children. You
You
got to
got to make your children feel like they can do
do anything.
anything that
That's right.
they put their mind to. You
Mhm.
have to, and make them believe that you are there to support them. The
Yep.
good, the bad, the ugly. If your children know that you love them, no matter what,
Hmm.
that you're there, you, baby, you fall in my arms. You know, hey, I'm not going to always condone what you do,
Hmm.
but I will love you in spite of it.
Right of it. That's right. Hmm. And
So that
recognize,
love becomes a support, you know. What'd you
right.
say, Linda?
I was going to say recognizing their efforts too. Any positive effort that has been made towards being a better person should be acknowledged. Well, maybe I see that you did do, you tried to clean up today or whatever it is really, really encouraging. And so it's important that we do those things.
Yeah, and which brings up another point is that when you are cohabitating, and this is for those people that are living together, whether it's family or whether it's a married couple or whatever, when you are cohabitating with someone, everyone has a responsibility. There should be a shared responsibility, and not all the burden should just fall on one person,
Hmm.
because that's unfair, especially in this day and age where every generally a lot of people got to work. But
Right.
even with the children, you teach the children, hey, you have to do your share, even if it's picking up your toys or if it's setting the
Mhm.
table or if it's whatever. Everyone has a part in this family or in this household. We all share the responsibility of
Mhm.
being here. So say
Yeah,
for
we say
instance,
teamwork makes the dream work over here.
what you say it again.
Teamwork makes the dream work. When we
Teamwork
work
makes the
together,
dream work.
that's right.
Absolutely.
When we work together, we can get it done and get it done faster, faster and better.
Right. And so here's the example. Your daughter loads the dishwasher, and every time she loads the dishwasher, she puts the knives and the forks up. Well, you hate that because you know that someone can get cut
Hmm.
by doing the dishes. So soon as you open up that dishwasher and you to get something, and you see that, you land into her. Didn't I tell you about the this? I told you don't do that. And sometimes she don't even know why, because it sounds stupid to her. And then you say, but I told you and I explained to you and I told you this and I told you that. And you can get off, go off, and you can get upset or whatever, put everybody out the household because she did them wrong. But if you were to encourage her, you would then increase the likelihood that she'll do it right the next time. So how does that look?
Hmm.
You can say something like, hey babe, I noticed you put the forks and the knives up again, and I thought the last time when we talked about that, I explained that to you, that that's more dangerous than if you put them down. So
Hmm.
I wasn't sure, is there a reason why you put them up? And maybe I need to know, maybe I can look at it from a different perspective, because I am very, I'm so appreciative that you wash the dishes.
Hmm.
Sometimes we don't want to say thank you. Well, they ought to do it because they there. But you can still say thank you. You
Right.
can still encourage them to keep doing it. Hey, you think she gonna want to keep doing it if you keep landing into her? I done told you 1,000 times, and you're gonna have to tell her 1,000 times more because your approach is wrong.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So you can say, hey, try to understand why she's doing it. Maybe she doing it out of spite. Or maybe, hey, what's, share with me. First of all, you can start off just thanking her, hey, thanks for loading the dishwasher. Thanks for washing the dishes. That's great. Hey, I went in there. I almost cut my hand on that the knife. It was up again. I noticed you do that. And I thought I had, we had talked about that before. Maybe I didn't explain myself. So tell me, what's is there a reason why you know, you put him in that way? Is it easier or what is the reason? I and just so that she understands that her input is valuable as well.
Mm-hmm.
She might say, "Oh, I didn't even think about it." Oh, okay. Well, babe, I wanted to bring it to your attention because it is dangerous. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason why it's not that I'm trying to tell you how to wash the dishes, because hey, you wash them dishes, girl. How you wash them dishes? I'm so happy you wash those dishes. But when it's something that could be dangerous to you as well as me and all of us, I did want to bring that to your attention. So
Mm-hmm.
that way you've had a conversation. You haven't let her in, but you still encouraged her.
Right.
You encouraged her by just letting her know, you value the fact that she's washing dishes. Your husband take out the trash. Thank you, baby. Oh, thank you for taking out that trash. Your son, hey, honey, thank you. Whatever they do, just people operate more on encouragement, and
They
as
sure
long
do.
as it's sincere.
Yes. Yes.
So
You got something?
we've hit the only other the two things we have not hit, and I think that then we'll wrap up. And one of those things is unconditional love and forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Unconditional love and forgiveness. Linda, you want to speak on that first?
Well, unconditional love means that you will love them regardless as to what happens with the relationship, whether you're together or not. I mean, sometimes I found that some people do need to split, you know, but that doesn't mean that they don't love each other and have mutual respect for each other. It's just that they have found that there's some things that um, the other person um, has shown that they're not willing to compromise on. And so that's a part of relationship development, I think. Whether you go into the all the way to the marriage thing, down the aisle, or whether you're just exploring, in your relationship. And that's okay. Splitting is okay, but showing mutual respect for each other and also for yourself as to what your boundaries are is very, very important. But it doesn't have to be bitter necessarily.
Yeah,
That's the thing. It doesn't have to be a bitter split up, and especially with kids, it's just you've got to find some kind of ground where you can work together because your focus is that you're going to be together because you got these children together, and they deserve to have a platform of love regardless as to what has happened between the two of you. You know. So helping couples to develop that, because sometimes it's hard when you're emotionally involved in something, and you're angry and upset and everything. It's just real hard. But that's when you have to work on you. You
yeah,
know, that's that me love again. You know,
yeah,
um, but because it's in your best interest to take care of you and to do the things that are going to not only help that relationship um, to work better, but also yourself to feel better and to function better. Because I've seen some bitter, split ups with kids, and it's just, oh my goodness, it's so stressful, so stressful.
I did a on my website. If you all want to take it, you can take it, motivitycoaching.com. MOTIVITY coaching.com. There is a assessment there. It's just like a survey to see how much input the wife has over the husband's, or no, let's say the mother has over the father's involvement with the children.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes if there's bitterness and anger and things like that, the mother will use the children, or the father will use the children
Mm-hmm.
as a weapon
Right.
against the other person,
Yep.
and then they become my children, not our children. And it's just dysfunctional for the children.
Yes, indeed. And
And
so,
then when the children also behold how you're communicating with others, you're teaching the children how to communicate in times of conflict.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
when you're having conflict with somebody, you need to curse them out and call them names, or you need to, treat them bad. You need to withhold everything from them, because that's children learn what they live.
mm-hmm,
And so when we're talking about unconditional love, it's like you teaching your children, take your love from this person because they did wrong.
hmm, mm-hmm. Right,
But unconditional love loves them in spite of their wrong.
right, right.
I love you. I don't condone what you're doing.
Mm-hmm,
I don't condone what you're doing, but I'm going
mm-hmm,
to respect you.
mm-hmm,
And right now, we can't be in the same room. We can't have this conversation. And we're
mm-hmm,
definitely not going to have it in front of the child.
mm-hmm,
And it's not a good time. And so what do children learn? They learn, okay, it's not a good time. You can have a conflict with somebody, but you must respect their time. You must respect them.
mm-hmm.
They're learning these things, that you
Right.
can still love somebody and be angry with them. Because you know how sometimes kids feel that, you hate me because you're mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
No, I love you always. But I
But I'm
can be
going
I
to
can
correct
be
you.
mad at you and still love you. Well, that's not how you was with daddy. You don't love daddy no more. He did, you was angry with him. You don't love him no more, so you don't love me, and so and then that leads that say way that's a say way say that leads us
Segue. Segue.
into segue, yeah, into unforgiveness.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to tell you
That's so-
something. Unforgiveness is cancer.
It sure is.
Unforgiveness is cancer that you can give to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the deal. The unforgiveness is not really, it's it's working more against you than it is the other person.
Absolutely.
It works on your health, it works on your psyche.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your well-being is affected when you don't forgive. Some people, I help them to unshackle their past, unshackle them from their past, unshackle their growth from the things that's held them bound due to unforgiveness.
And sometimes unforgiveness of yourself.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah,
Yourself is a
talk about
very
it.
important thing, you know, because you just put yourself in prison when you do that, in your own psyche. And so it just keeps you from, the joy and the peace and all of the things that all of us strive for in our relationships and in our lives. But if you're carrying around this burden of unforgiveness for yourself, you can't attain those things at the same time. It's very, very important that you forgive yourself so that you can live your best life and be free. And you're the one that has to do it.
Yeah,
And you can do it. You can
yeah,
do it.
you really can.
Mhm.
And so we started off talking about relationships. We hit some do's and don't elements of a relationship. We hope that that's been really beneficial for you, so that that can help you improve your various relationships. But we started off talking about Dr. Dougan started off talking about that self relationship, that relationship with yourself.
Mhm.
And we want to end in saying that forgiving yourself for the mistakes that you've made. You must have a really good relationship. Dr. Dougan and I are working on a program, and it is a program to help other people cultivate self-love and self-compassion. And a part of that is self-forgiveness. And it's just being more compassionate to yourself. This is one of the best relationships you can have other than your relationship with the creator. You must first love yourself. You must love yourself unconditionally, respect yourself, listen to yourself, because sometimes your emotions and your stress are telling you something.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
listen to yourself. So all the elements we told you were the do elements, communicating with yourself in a positive way, not saying those horrible things to yourself and about yourself. All the elements we taught you was a do relationship with other, a do element with other people. Bring that to yourself.
Mhm.
Know that you should listen. Know that you should love yourself and forgive yourself and be compassionate, and gentle with yourself, and treat yourself the way you treat others, because you're just as worthy of that self-love, that self-forgiveness, that self uh uh what would you say, self-respect. you're,
Mhm.
you're you're worthy of all of those due elements that you're giving to other people. So don't leave you out of the picture. We love you so much, and we want you to be prosperous in all that you do. Isn't that correct, Linda?
Yes, indeed. We want you to live your best life. And we know that loving yourself is the essential first relationship after your relationship with the Creator in order to make that happen. And so we encourage you to get the help you need if you need someone for guidance in those kinds of areas. There's so many self-help books and all kinds of things that you can do, but work on yourself, and then you have the basis for developing, very good relationships with others as well. So we encourage you to do that.
Yes, we do. And we love you so much, everybody. Join us. Oh, Linda, tell them about our next show in 2 weeks. Who's going
Oh,
to be on the
yes.
show? Tell them what's going on.
Yes, 2 weeks from now, we have Dr. Angela Reeves from Michigan, who's going to be talking about what we need to know so far as skills that are needed for the 21st century jobs. You know, our kids nowadays, we're struggling just to get the basics done, but our whole skill set is off from what we need to be teaching these kids for the next century, and also for the jobs that are going to be activated. So we need this information. And so we ask that you come and tune in and tell others about it too. Parents especially, and educators. She will be talking about that. She's done some research on this, and she's going to be sharing that with us. So we're very excited about that. And we hope you'll tune in also.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us. We know that many of you can't make it during this hour, but you do watch us, and you comment and you leave comments, and we appreciate all of them. We appreciate your support. We're asking you to share this with other people so maybe they can improve their relationships, and also be and join us for our next show. And we just love you so much. We pray God's best for you. And,
Yeah,
and again, we love you. God be with you. And bye for now.
we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yes.